All right, it is SNL. Landry Locker, Cody Stutes with you. Nice little weekend. We got the final activity before camp begins. Will he or won't he? Will CJ Stroud throw? Joe Mixon, hearing some things about old Joe Mixon. We're obviously going to get into the Nick Chubb news as well. But is Joe Mixon good to go? Should we be worried about Joe? He had his football camp. But before we do that, I have a list, and we were actually going to do this, and this is kind of crazy that this thing went down. I had the list of like the most interesting Texans that nobody's talking about heading into camp, as we'll both be out there tomorrow at OTAs. And over the weekend, I think one of the most interesting Texans of all time, his people reached out, and he's got some stuff going on. So let's bring in one of the most interesting men, I think, in Texans history. Amobi Okoye joins the show. Amobi, we appreciate you. I was telling you during the break that your name comes up because we're millennials. We're pop culture guys. We used to play Madden. We don't play it now that kids are just playing like in their basements and not like actually having people over and getting on the game. But you were a legend because in Madden franchise mode, you could get a 19-year-old on your squad, and that was about a 20. That would take you all the way to your extended franchise. How does a guy get in the NFL at 19? Because the interesting thing is you have to be in college for 3 years. It's not like the NBA where you go graduate high school. How does that happen?
Okay, so I started, obviously from Nigeria, and I started school very early. My mom happened to be the principal and was running the school, and after she had to leave and couldn't find trustworthy people to take over me, to watch me while she went to work, she just took me to work with her, and from there, I just enrolled in classes and started. I started in school like at 2.5, and I also to go from elementary to middle school, you got to take an exam, and they give you an option to take it in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And so I took mine in the 5th grade, and I was able to. I didn't had good enough scores to skip the 6th, and so that's how I was able to be advanced 2 years, other than my peers, and was able to start high school at 12 and graduate at 15 and college at 19. So that's how it happened, man. I started school early and skipped the grade early.
Now we'll talk about the Amobi Okoye Foundation stuff you got coming up, but as you're skipping these grades, like you're also like a big kid, right? Like it's not like you're just sitting over in the corner with your pens and your books. Like you're also a big kid, and I assume you're doing athletics as you're kind of going through school.
Yeah. So I was just talking. I don't know if I was talking to my mom or somebody. I was trying to remember the last time I was less than 200 pounds, and I think it might have been like 4th, 5th grade or something like that. So I've always had a big frame and big kid, and I know when I was little, I think my daughter does it to me now. I would always ask for chocolate milk in the middle of the night, and that's the way I would go to sleep. And so I've always had a big frame for as a kid. I was the big kid amongst all my peers, and was the one that would stand up for the bullies and all that from all my friends. So yeah. I've always been big.
When was the age the most awkward? Like, and maybe awkward or just most like, I don't want to say overwhelming because you handled it okay, but like, was it in high school when it was the most awkward? Was it when you get to the NFL and you're 19 and everyone else is like 21 and up? When was it like the most awkward to be the young guy?
Probably in the NFL, because all throughout my life, like I've always felt like I was at the right age, like growing up. So I think it was NFL when I was like, oh man, these are men with families and wives and everything. So it was I'll have to say the NFL.
We're going to talk about some of the stuff you got going on with the Amobi Okoye Foundation. You're basically pulling a triple header. But another interesting thing and why we call you one of the most interesting guys is, I mean, I don't know if I'm overselling it or being dramatic, but I mean, you basically died. How did that whole thing go down, and what was that process like? I can't even imagine.
Yeah, so it was I don't know, the words can't really describe it. But after doing what I did as far as going to the NFL at such a young age and graduating college at such a young age in high school, I had the very, very, very scary health illness in 2013. Just the way I'm talking with you guys right now, I was talking with my dad and one of my best friends from college, and had a seizure. Foaming out of the mouth. This was March 13th of 2013. And from that period of time to August 7th of 2013, I was in heaven, in my opinion. I was in an induced coma. I don't remember anything. When I was finally coherent on August 7th, I thought it was still March 15th of 2013. And then, I was diagnosed with autoimmune encephalitis, a virus that my own body created, was attacking my own receptors. Very, very rare illness. I was like the first adult male athlete to have it. That's why they couldn't diagnose what it was. And but I'm a very firm believer in faith, and I know that everything happens for a reason, and God chose that to happen to use me as a vessel to do other things. So that's how I take it.
Talk about the as Landry called it, the triple header with the Amobi Okoye Foundation, all the stuff you got going Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this week. Do you have moments from the NFL that you're particularly proud of, or that you remember, or that stick out when you do go down memory lane? You do talk about your NFL career. Do you have a moment or two that you kind of remember, maybe even specifically a Texans moment?
For sure. My rookie year, second Peyton Manning. That was because of course, watching him in college and high school, you just like this guy is unbelievable the way he releases the ball, and you never can never get to him. So that moment I would probably say was one of the highlights for sure.
And as far as the foundation, you have the fundraiser this weekend. Let's just start. I guess June 14th, you got 3 activities. First, you're going to tackle some hunger at 9 a.m. Till noon. What do we got in store there?
Yeah, so the foundation I started as soon as I got drafted, because once I moved from Nigeria to here, I always wanted to find a way to give back and just better myself and do something to give back. So I started the foundation, and during my birthday, I do all our programs and raise funds for him as well. And it's starting off on Friday night with what I call movies and motivation. I'm going to be hosting about good 50 kids, 50 to 100 kids, depends on how on whichever of them show up. At Star Cinema Grill, going to watch Karate Kid. So the whole point of that is to get kids from all different creeds, origin, or whatever to mix around and just interact with each other, and then just give them a motivational speech about my life, and get other people with in other careers paths to also come and talk to them and just motivate them to want to be better when they become adults. So it starts with that. Then I have a food outreach with my church and the Houston Food Bank. We do this every week, and every Saturday, where the Houston Food Bank comes with a bunch of food, and we disperse them, break it down and disperse it to the community. So that's in the Saturday morning. We call that Tackle Hunger. Then that later on that evening, when the sun has come down a little bit, we have the camp, the NFL Play 60 camp. And the whole, obviously, initiative of that is to get kids to go outside, drop the iPads and the Fortnites, Jesus Christ, for a little bit.
I always say it's a damn shame we have to bribe kids to play outside for 60 seconds. I'm starting to sound old, but man, back in my day, I won't take you down that, but it's a shame sometimes.
It is, man. And I almost get it with the heat and the global warming. I get why kids. It's you got to get them to go out there and just exercise and just get some vitamin D. So that's the end of the of that Saturday. Then on Sunday, I have a partnership with walk-ons, where all the kids that participate in the events can come and eat, and 10% of the proceeds from the community helps to furthering and helping these programs. So yes, and then of course Saturday night, to actually celebrate the birthday, I'll be doing a dinner at a place called Confessions. And so looking forward to all of that, man. It's an eventful weekend. I started doing this as soon as I got drafted and started my foundation. And obviously the illness happened and I had to focus on my health. And I relaunched the foundation in 2023, which marked the 10-year anniversary of beating the illness. And so trying to help families that have either dealt with the illness or are dealing with it right now. Because I know what it went through with me and my family. And so that's what the foundation tries to do that whole weekend.
You mentioned the birthday. What are you, like 29 now, 30? You know?
I wish I'll be turning 38, but it's Father Time waits for no one.
It does not. Is there any effect, like lingering effects from what you went through or anything like that? Or because you said you beat, is there anything that kind of lingers from that type of thing?
The major recovery, I would have to say, is still memory. My long-term and short-term memory are still in a recovery, in my opinion. And at first, I probably would say that I was in denial of accepting that. But as time lapses and I evaluate myself, I notice it, and the memory is the main thing that it affected.
Okay. That's understandable. Are you a birthday week guy? Were you ever a guy that had a whole birthday week, or do you try to minimize the birthday?
Well, I wasn't until like my birthday became a thing because of my age and accomplishments. So ever since like pretty much since high school when I moved here, the whole it's become a whole week celebration.
Yeah, there you go.
The Amobi Okoye Foundation. AmobiOkoyeFoundation.net. I put the link in the chat for everybody that wants to see it, and the walk-ons party on Sunday and the various other things you got going on. And it sounds like with the charity, you do a bunch of different things. It's not just be outside. It's not just tackle hunger. You get a lot of things going on with the foundation. So that's
exactly.
Awesome.
It's just all about just giving back, man. I think everybody is blessed in somewhere, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be a financial way to give back. You can always just give back volunteering, and I feel like it's like paying your tithes. It comes back to you.
There you go. Amobi, we appreciate it very much. Thanks for stopping through. And the legend continues. You and Christian Kirksey are the two big Texans Madden legends. Christian Kirksey, they had a glitch where he was 1 foot tall. So Christian Kirksey was 1 foot tall in Madden.
The receiver, are you serious?
The linebacker here, yeah.
Oh, the linebacker, yeah.
So he was 1 foot tall, and you were 19 years old in franchise mode. So I don't know which one is probably the 1 foot tall.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious. Well, how about those Texans though, man?
Well, we got to see the quarterback throw, and we got to see the running back run, and then we'll be ready.
I'm fine with him. I'm fine with him not throwing anything till week one. I don't even want him throwing in a regular season, because nowadays, man, you never know what can happen. So if something gonna happen, I want it to happen when it really counts.
Ice up, okay.
Okay, all right. Put him on ice for a while. All right.
Yeah, he's gonna have a good year. You know, that first year was long. That first year was long, and so last year was kind of like just kind of getting back into normal. But I expect a lot of big things from him this year. He's great kid too, man. I've met and spoke with him, and just God bless us with one right there.
Yep. It's definitely better than it has been, for sure. We appreciate you, my friend. Good luck this weekend. We'll put it out, and it's good talking to you. Good catching up.
Likewise, man. I appreciate y'all having me on.
All right, there you go. That's the most interesting man.
He is the most interesting man in the world.
There you go. I could not imagine 19 in the NFL. That's crazy. 19, I can imagine 30 in the NFL, for being honest, but
right. It's hard for me to imagine in the NFL at all, but 19, you roll in there, like you said, everybody's got families, everybody's, been in the league for a few years, stuff like that. It's lots of challenges being 19 and walking into an NFL locker room.
So there we go. It is SNL. And again, we put the link up if you want to check out everything going on with the Amobi Okoye Foundation. So we had some interesting news over the weekend. We've kind of kicked this around, Cody. The Texans signed Nick Chubb, which leads to a lot of questions. The obvious is, what does Nick Chubb have left? And then the other question is, what does this mean when it comes to Joe Mixon? That's something else that apparently he's not moving around greatly. I got a message from someone who was at the football camp. Apparently Joe is walking with a limp, eating steak and shrimp, minus the steak and shrimp, and he is in a golf cart.
Okay, so okay, hold on. He's walking with a limp, and he has to use a golf cart to get around all the time, or he was using a golf cart to get around because it was a big camp?
Don't know.
I think the context is important.
Don't know. Limping. We heard the boot. Don't know.
Well, 3 weeks ago, he was in a boot and his leg was falling off, according to Aaron Wilson. So, maybe this is an improvement.
Yeah, but the Texans signed Nick Chubb.
Is Chubb more about Joe Mixon, or is Chubb more about the guys behind Joe Mixon?
Both. I think definitely this has been something that we've talked about. We've talked about running back depth, and we've spoken on how they really don't have much running back depth, and they've kind of neglected that for a while. I think the opportunity just kind of left them in the draft when it came to getting in that running back tier that we spoke on. But as a result of that, now we're talking about bringing in Nick Chubb. What's going to happen with Joe Mixon? What does it look like? For me, this kind of feels like perhaps maybe best case scenario, a better version of what we saw from Cam Akers last year. And some people will roll their eyes and say, how could you compare Nick Chubb and what he's been and what Cam Akers has been? Look, once you get below 3.5 yards per carry, there's really no point of return. Like once Adrian Peterson started getting in that range at about 29, it went tumbling down very, very quickly. And maybe even if he's not what he once was, because I saw the conversation with Ian Rappaport and McAfee yesterday. I was like, if he can be what he was 3 years, if he could be what he was 3 years ago, the Texans would have had no chance to sign him in June.
He'd still be on the Cleveland Browns, and they wouldn't have drafted 2 running backs.
Yeah, so that's a big if. But even if he's like a shell of his former self, he might sadly be better than what the Texans have behind Joe Mixon.
Well, I mean, look, they did not have anybody that you could turn to as a lead back if Joe Mixon can't go. Because this is like Nick Chubb is not necessarily on the Texans to supplant Joe Mixon. He's there in case Joe Mixon can't go, because Chubb doesn't catch the ball very well out of the backfield. That's why you have Dare Ogunbowale or Woody Marks, or maybe both those guys, for third down running back situations. Like Chubb is here as an emergency for Joe Mixon, and maybe you spell him here or there in the offense and he's also here because he's better as that running back 2 option than Dameon Pierce and Woody Marks and Jawar Jordan and Dare Ogunbowale and everybody that you have as a running back. So the hope is, as far as if you have to put Joe Mixon on the field as your running back, the hope is that he's another year removed from a terrible knee injury and he's got a little bit more juice to him, because he never had less than 5 yards per an attempt in his life. And then he has 3.3 yards per attempt last year on a crappy Browns team. Now, look, the offensive line was crappy, but there also wasn't, throwback Nick Chubb moments from Nick Chubb when he was on the field. Like, he didn't have the same amount of burst. He didn't have the same amount of juice to his game. Like, okay, you get a little bit further away, and, I see him in the workouts and he's squatting 600 pounds in the gym. Okay, that's great. Like, let's see what he's got on the field.
It's not what it was. It's down. I think it's in the 5s now.
Well, I literally watched him do it on his Instagram. It's like 595. So
it's not what it once was.
Oh, we're just going to say that 595 is not impressive anymore? Yeah, he squatted nearly 600 pounds. What a wussy. Like, again, if he's 75% of what he used to be, he's way better than everybody else they had behind Joe Mixon. I just don't know if he can get to 75% of what he used to be.
Yeah. I'm a little bit skeptical about this. I don't think much of it at all.
Well, the perfect scenario is that you never have to use him. Is that Joe Mixon and the third down running backs can handle most everything. The ideal time to put Nick Chubb on the field is when you're up by 21 in the fourth quarter. That'd be the ideal time to put Nick Chubb on the field.
Yeah, that would be the ideal time. I just don't know if that's what's going to happen. I could easily see Nick Chubb not making the team. I mean, quite honestly, like I could see Nick Chubb being a non-factor.
Yeah, if he gets out there and he doesn't have the acceleration necessary, and he doesn't have any level of speed close to his previous version, he's never going to be 2022 and before Nick Chubb again. Just how good of
that was a top 3 running back in the league.
Yeah, like how good of he's a 4-time Pro Bowler, and he was he played one game and a few touches. He had some of the like a really good start to the 2023 season before his knee injury, but he's not going to be that guy. But again, 75% of that is better than Dameon Pierce. It's better than Ogunbowale. It's better than Woody Marks and anything else that the Texans have done. If they were super worried about Mixon, I would have preferred them to add somebody with a little bit more juice to him, like J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, I just don't think J.K. would take this situation. I think J.K. would probably. I think J.K. has enough to where he would look at Joe Mixon and say that guy's going to take a lot of carries for me. And that's the other thing with Nick Chubb. I don't think a lot of people were dying to sign Nick Chubb.
Well, if you believe Diana Rossini, there were people dying to sign Nick Chubb, and he thought this was a good spot.
Getting that from an agent. Like the agent is saying that there were other suitors. Obviously, like that's it. It just doesn't. It wouldn't make sense for a lot of teams to want Nick Chubb. I actually thought Nick Chubb might be like kind of someone who signs in season when something happens and things shape up and teams become more desperate. But here we are. And I think it's interesting. The most interesting thing to me is how full circle this is in that Nick Chubb was selected in 28. Go ahead.
Well, the one thing I think to point out about what Rossini reported, and I understand she gets it from the agent, he takes an incentive-laden contract, and he may have to take the incentive-laden contract, but he could have taken an incentive-laden contract with anybody, couldn't he? Like, does he think that he could beat out Joe Mixon?
I don't know. Like, do any teams have as bad of a running back room, like top to bottom, as the Texans?
Yeah,
it seems like a good opportunity. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a good opportunity. I mean, you're talking about who are you competing with for RB2? You're competing with Dameon Pierce and Dare Ogunbowale, which we've talked about. I think Marks is a factor somewhere, but that's what you're competing with. But I think it's just to bring it back, and we'll bring it back to like the overall fit. I think it's interesting that this is a guy who was selected 35th overall in the 2018 draft with the Texans' original draft pick, the second rounder that they sent to Cleveland to get Brock Osweiler off their hands. And in that draft before that, they traded up with the Browns to draft Deshaun Watson. And then, of course, later on, they ripped off the Browns in one of perhaps the biggest thefts in NFL history with the trade of Deshaun Watson. So the one time that the Browns, with this interesting history they have with the Texans the last 7 whatever years, that they got over. Now Nick Chubb is going to be a member of the Texans. I guess better late than never.
Well, maybe if he's got something left, better late than never. But I mean, if he comes out there and there's nothing left, okay, well, you're back to square one, which is you don't have a backup for Joe Mixon. And oh, by the way, Joe Mixon might be hurt.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's limping, and there was the report of the boot, so we'll see what. I don't anticipate Joe Mixon is going to be working out tomorrow.
Well, no, I mean, if he's in a boot 2 weeks ago, then he's probably not working out tomorrow. No.
Yeah, but it's a low risk, medium reward move. I don't think it's low risk, high reward. I think it's a low risk, medium. I think it could be a better version of what Cam Akers was, which was pretty decent at times as like the 1-2 punch. And if at the very least, if Nick Chubb has anything left, if Joe Mixon misses time, you don't have Dare Ogunbowale at RB1 or Dameon Pierce at RB1. You have a guy who's proven that he can carry the workload. So I would say low risk, medium reward.
They needed somebody different to be RB2 in case Joe Mixon can't go than what they had, and they went out and got somebody. So they deserve props for that, because if they just entered training camp with what they had, I don't know if that would have been enough, or you would have had any sort of level of comfort with that. At least with Chubb, there's a scenario where you have a little bit more comfort. I don't know how likely it is coming off of his, injury and what he can do to bounce back, but there's at least a scenario where you have, okay, if Mixon's got to miss 2 weeks, you can at least use Chubb for 2 weeks. You can, maybe you get to that level with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and the other thing about it is that, I mean, quite frankly, I think it's a miracle that Nick Chubb's even in this situation, because I thought his career was over when he had that injury, and he was 27 when he had it. They said it only required 2 surgeries. I was just absolutely shocked by that. And maybe it just kind of speaks to what a physical specimen he is, but just the fact that he's even trying to still play football after that injury and just how ugly it was. I mean, that speaks to kind of what a physical freak he is. So
yeah, again, another year away from that. Maybe there's a little bit more to what he showcased than last year with what he put on the field in Cleveland. A lot of guys look bad the first year after the knee injury and then get a tiny bit better the further they get away.
On the super chat here on SNL, interesting Monday. Shout out to Amobi Okoye for joining us earlier today.
Swarm.
Jacob Hyatt says, much love to Amobi. How was it being drafted in the NFL as a child prodigy? He touched on that. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Jacob.
Logan says, have they officially signed Chubb to a contract?
I mean, the Texans have not announced it, but multiple reporters, he took a physical, passed his physical, he's going to go.
HDAV, afternoon to you, mi amigo. So the Chubb thing, it's a tire kick, and we'll see what it looks like. It'll be interesting to see what he looks like out there. He was a name that was thrown out there. I don't think either one of us thought it made a ton of sense, but maybe they know something we don't. Do you think that it says anything about perhaps the system that Nick Caley runs, though, the running system? I mean, he's had some success in the Stefanski type of scheme, so maybe there's that kind of factor too. Maybe Nick Caley thought that he could figure something out with him, but who knows?
I mean, I think this guy's better than the guys we had in the room behind Joe, so let's get him in here and see if he can figure it out.
Yeah, and he's kind of their kind of guy. I know that I've never heard anyone say anything bad about him in Cleveland, like as far as being the type of guys they want. I'm also kind of intrigued. This might be kind of a nobody's talking about. I'm also kind of intrigued by what is his jersey number going to be, because he was 27 in college. That's Woody Marks, and he's been 24 in the NFL. That one damn sure ain't going to him. So you have the Derek Stingley situation there. Wonder what jersey number Nick Chubb wears.
I'll let you worry about that one. All right.
He's going to come up off it, man.
Were you going to get a jersey? Is that what you want to know? You want to go ahead and custom order it?
No, I just want to this is just kind of the extra layer. Like, it just been used to him in 24. Remember him in 27? Like what's he going to be rocking?
All right. Well, can't wait to see.
He's going to be out there tomorrow, though.
Oh, yeah. He's got some catching up to do.
He's going to look good compared to what they got. That's the other thing. Like, compared to what they got, I mean, especially in this format, he's going to look good.
Well, he's going to look like Hercules compared to what was out there. It's not like Mixon and Dameon Pierce haven't been out there. Marks is, he's a rookie. J.J. Taylor's 4 foot tall. Jawar Jordan's not big. British Brooks isn't fast. Like, he's going to look like a superstar out there compared to those guys.
Yeah, and then of course we're also going to get a look at CJ. Will he or won't he throw? That's going to reemerge. That's gotten a little bit of headlines on the national folks are a little bit concerned about CJ not throwing. The Mixon thing might add a completely different element, because you saw the Aaron Wilson. Do I call it a report? Like the Barry in the video, whatever. We're creeping up on 30 with Joe Mixon. What do we expect from Joe Mixon? Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be like just on the training table? Is he going to be running on the side?
Well, if they thought that he was close to expiration at the end of last year and they operated this way for the running back room, then that's a terrible job by them. So I wonder if the Mixon foot injury just sort of pops up here in the offseason and then they sort of have to adjust and fine tune after it. I mean, in a boot a couple weeks ago, not in a boot now. That's trending in the right direction. Is he going to be good to go for training camp and then ultimately the season? You certainly hope so, but he's had a lot of reps. He's been near the top of the attempts for running backs a handful of times in his career. And it's about that time where stuff catches up for him. I know he's been a little bit of an anomaly, but you don't stay an eternal anomaly. Eventually, history catches up to you. So he's pretty close to the, drop off because of the amount of reps he's had portion of his career. So, I'll be interested to see what version of Joe Mixon they have, because success on the ground is Joe Mixon being good. Like, they're not going to consistently be successful with anybody else as the running back.
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to sit here and say that there's not like big concerns with what's going on with the Texans right now in the offseason. Like, they're laying out a lot of possible clues that this could be, I don't know if disaster is the right word, but they're showing you quite a lot of possibilities of a very like rough path for the season. Because if we laid out the most important guys on this team, CJ Stroud's at the top. He's not throwing. The offensive line, you don't feel awesome about the offensive line right now. You're intrigued, but you don't feel awesome. And then it was kind of a debate last year. I thought it was a good one about who was more important between Mixon and Nico Collins based on what they did. And Joe Mixon, like, even without this, there's natural concern at that age for a running back that eventually there's a decline in play. And that's why you see so many teams handling running backs the way they handle it. And when he's not 100%, and it's not anything that happened last year, that it's at least warning signs. The defense is going to keep you in games, but if you're going to reach these goals that the Texans have, win the division for the third straight time for the first time in franchise history, get to the AFC Championship game for the first time in franchise history, you're going to need CJ Stroud and you're going to need Joe Mixon. And we can sit here and we can say, well, don't worry about it till camp. I mean, I guess, but the concerns are appearing very, very early to where they're at least there for you. So at the very least, I will say this has not been a very encouraging offseason for the Texans, especially post-draft. When you talk about these guys that you're depending on.
I mean, I'm not as worried about Mixon as I am CJ. I mean, running backs miss time in off seasons a lot, and Mixon missed time last year, but it wasn't like something that was a recurring injury. Like, he got hip drop tackled, he got hurt. And like, again, they've maybe done the best they can post-draft. Now, again, the whole offseason they could have operated differently, but post-draft, as far as finding somebody behind Joe Mixon, I'm with you. I think J.K. Dobbins probably would say thanks, no thanks, unless you just money whipped him. They don't really have that ability, it seems. So, okay, you see what Chubb has. Hopefully you don't have to use him because hopefully Mixon's ready to go. But, yeah, your ability to run the football is dependent on Mixon and this offensive line being better. And those are, the offensive line being better is a question mark, and Mixon's health right now is a question mark.
Yeah, CJ's he's the guy that's going to get you where you want to go. He's the most important guy, and he hasn't thrown. So, yeah, it's a little bit concerning, and we'll check out what happens with Mixon. And then after this week, I mean, it's the downtime before camp, and that's where you can kind of unwind, relax, and we can get through this together. I don't anticipate CJ throwing tomorrow. It would be, I guess it would be cool if he did. I would rather that he doesn't, but who knows?
I mean, if he can throw, he needs to throw.
If he can.
If he can throw, he needs to throw.
Big if. Well, fortunately, we'll know tomorrow at 9:30. I'm just glad we get to cover some practices, see some on-field stuff, and it's we're going to see a lot of guys that we haven't seen in a while, including maybe Joe Mixon. Don't know. Dameon Pierce. Is Dameon Pierce going to make his way out there?
I mean, he was around during OTAs, but he was spotted in the training room. So it's not like he was on the field or he wasn't watching or observing. What's he dealing with? Who knows? He didn't have an injury at the end of the year last year. So what's he dealing with? I don't know.
I mean, he's dealing with now where this is 2 straight years they brought in a vet to basically take that RB2 spot. So I don't know. We'll see.
That's pretty bad timing for him to be banged up and not be able to be on the field when you could have gotten, a lot more reps with no Joe Mixon there. And now all of a sudden you got Nick Chubb coming in. They clearly have some level of belief in Dameon Pierce because they did not highly prioritize the running back position.
Patrick Ding says, flip the display positions back to normal. I guess it's kind of tripping him out a little bit.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
There you go. Boom. Everything is back to normal.
I don't know how many people notice, but people do notice.
People do notice it's kind of a natural thing. It's like the Brady Bunch. Like, the guys are going to be on the left and the girls on the right. I mean, if they switch that up, I'm sure people would feel like they were kind of tripped out, which quite frankly, back in the Brady Bunch era, they might've been tripped out. You never know. That was kind of an acid era.
Nobody would have noticed it though. Cause there's little details like that. There wasn't an internet to go find it after you watch a movie or a show. You go read all the little details that you missed or you didn't catch.
So the Nick Chubb, grade the move 1 to 5. Nick Chubb, the signing 1 to 5.
Which is the good side? Which is the bad side?
Bad is 1. Really good is 5.
I would say 3. 3, because I don't want to see Nick Chubb on the field. If Nick Chubb's on the field, I feel like it's bad. That means you don't have Joe Mixon. So I don't want to see Nick Chubb on the field, but if I have to see somebody that's not Joe Mixon, I'd rather see Nick Chubb than Dameon Pierce, Dare Ogunbowale, Woody Marks, things like that.
Yeah, I'll say it's like a 3-5. We'll see what it is. I don't think there's a lot of upside. If I like J.K. Dobbins, I think there's a little bit more upside, so I would give that a 5. But I don't think there's a ton of upside. I think it's necessary because of what we've spoken of at the running back position. But I would say 3-5 for sure.
One thing I do want to note about the running back position, I wrote about this on Houston Football this morning. Joe Mixon's 29. Nick Chubb is 29, will turn 30. Dare Ogunbowale is 31. Dameon Pierce is 25 in the last year of his rookie contract and for 2 years hasn't shown anything. And despite being a rookie, Woody Marks turns 25 this year. That's an old-ass running back room. That is an old-ass running back room. 29, 29, 31, 25, and 25. Like, that is an old running back room. They have not done a good job getting youth in there.
No, it's been an issue. Birdie Boy on the chat, what would be your guys' walkout song?
Like if we were like walking out to like hit in a baseball game, or if we were like wrestling.
I don't know what that means.
Well, if I was walking up to hit, I think I'd just do Let's Go.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have any sort of history to have like cool walk-up songs.
Okay, let's go. All right.
You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I got you.
You want me to sing it?
No, I don't.
Let's go! If you want it, you could get it. Let me know. Let me know.
Roy Boy, 3281. Who's leaving first, Mechie, Hutchinson, or Pierce?
I would say there's a chance Mechie leaves in camp, I would think.
Yeah, Pierce at least has a potential place with kick return.
I mean, maybe.
He has another way. He has another way outside of just playing running back on the roster. I don't think you can say the same for Mechie. Hutchinson plays special teams, so I think Hutchinson's actually on the inside right now.
Well, okay, so for Pierce, I mean, how many backs are you keeping? Let's look at it real quick. This is before you sign Nick Chubb. Mixon and Woody Marks are on the team. We know that for sure. There's 2. There's what, 2 other spots between everybody else?
Unless British can like be a fullback and make the team there.
Well, he's not even practicing with the fullbacks.
I know. So that's a long shot for sure.
So, Joe and Woody Marks, they love Dare Agumbawale. It must be impossible to teach what he does on special teams because nobody else has learned it. So, like, there's 3. So, Nick Chubb's 4 if he shows you something.
They love Dare, though.
How do you unless you're turning over Dare's role to Woody Marks, then okay, Pierce is sort of emergency running back / special teams guy. I mean, to Pierce to make the roster, like he's going to have to be the best kick returner.
You got to beat out Nick Chubb, man.
And maybe Nick Chubb can't.
You got to beat out Nick Chubb.
Okay.
I mean, that's what Dameon Pierce, because they're in the same boat. Like, there's no, like, the benefit that a younger player typically has is you have him under contract for, like, Xavier Hutchinson, like, the advantage that he has over John Mechie, he has too. But, I mean, outside of probably being a better player, but he plays special teams, and he has 2 years left on his deal while Mechie has 1. Nick Chubb and Dameon Pierce have the same amount of years left on their deal. So there's no like massive advantage that you have. So he's just going to have to beat out Nick Chubb, and he's going to have to return kicks at the highest level. But then the other question is, he doesn't even have like an injury advantage over Nick Chubb. I know Nick Chubb's coming off one of the most horrific injuries that we've ever seen a couple of years ago, but Dameon Pierce hasn't been able to stay on the field. It's kind of an under the radar thing about Dameon Pierce. He is not, even when he's like, as soon as it looks like he might be figuring something out, boom, he's out for a few weeks with a soft tissue injury.
He didn't even get to play last year when Mixon got hurt because he was also hurt. That's why you had Cam Akers and Dare Agumbawale and everything else they tried at running back during the Mixon absence.
Yep. So I have a list of interesting guys that we aren't talking about. The most interesting under the radar Texans. On Interesting Monday, Amobi Okoye joined us earlier today, the 19-year-old NFL player, the guy who died, quite frankly. And he is still alive, and that's not an exaggeration. He's in a coma for damn near half a year.
Coma for all of summer.
Yeah, insane.
March to August.
Yeah, insane. Number 1 is Dalton Schultz. I think Dalton Schultz is – there's hope that maybe he was hurt last year. And I know that sounds crazy, but the way he was used, I think it was malpractice by Bobby Slowick. But I also think there's hope.
Damn it, Bobby.
That maybe Dalton Schultz was hurt. And that was part of the reason why he struggled and he was playing a little bit banged up. We did see him at times not practice, working out on the side field. I think when we meet with Dalton Schultz, I think it might be sooner rather than later. That will be one of the questions that comes up. Were you healthy last year? I think the answer is going to be no, or he's going to go bro and be like, well, you're always banged up, blah, blah, blah. But I think there's a chance if you're holding on to any glimmer of hope that Dalton Schultz can be productive. I think he might have been hurt last year. I think this is something to keep an eye on when it comes to the Texans. And we also know Nick Caley, he likes them tight ends.
He certainly does. And I know Dalton Schultz was disappointing last season. He's still the best tight end on this team. And I would say that there's a gap between him and the rest of the guys too. So it's like, as much as he was disappointing in 2024, as an offense, you could really use him being a much better player. And regardless of why he was bad in 2024, he needs to be much better in 2025 for them to operate the way that they want to operate on offense.
Next most interesting man under the radar, and last year he was not under the radar, Christian Harris. I've bought the stock. The penny stock is stacked up. Christian Harris is – D'Amico said he's going to be ready for camp. D'Amico can commit to guys being ready.
Ready to roll.
Ready to roll is what D'Amico said. I'm buying stock. Christian Harris, the running back, the linebackers, a little bit deeper than perhaps they get credit for. And I think Christian Harris fighting for his NFL life, D'Amico guy, under the radar. I'm buying the stock. The stock has been bought.
There's absolutely a chance that we're sitting here in October, November, and I'm sitting here and I'm saying, in the imaginary Christian Harris stock, I'm the guy that didn't buy Apple in the late 80s. I'm the guy that didn't buy Christian Harris this past offseason. It's absolutely can see how it works out. When healthy, he's one of the most athletic linebackers that they have. He's one of the better cover guys at the linebacker position that they have. You can use him a bunch of different ways. You just got to get healthy and get out there. And I have faith if he's healthy and out there, D'Amico Ryans will figure out a way to use him.
Next one, most interesting under the radar, guys, Trent Brown. I don't know if he even practices, plays, anything. What is he? He's kind of a mentor right now. He's going around. He's mentoring guys. If this guy puts on a football uniform, I just wonder where he's at because they like him. They obviously trust him to kind of let the young guys know what they want. Massive human being. He has history with Popovich. He has history with Kaylee. If Trent Brown is active at any point, that's where my eyes are going to be during camp. I'm very fascinated. I was fascinated when they signed him. I was like, what? He's still trying to play? And not only is he trying to play, he seems like he's relatively invested, even on the sidelines, in this team. I've seen him go over to guys and coach them more than I did Laramie Tunsil during a 5-year stint. And I'm not exaggerating. From 2019 to 2024, I've seen Trent Brown in a brief time pull guys to the side and appear to be teaching them more than I did Laramie Tunsil in a half decade.
It is quite likely that Trent Brown got a $500,000 guarantee to come in here, be a chaperone for the offensive line room, help everybody get acclimated. I just don't believe he's going to play football for the Texans this year, and I don't believe he's going to play football anytime soon.
Yeah, and I would probably agree with you, but it is intriguing to say the very least. Justin Watson.
He looked quick on Tuesday, man.
He looked faster than he looks, according to you and according to many. And D'Amico Ryans has had some really good things to say about Justin Watson. I think he's safe on this team. I think he has a role. I don't even think he's competing for a spot. They gave him a 2-year deal. It wasn't one of the 1-year deals that they typically like to do. It's interesting because Kansas City, he's had a lot of opportunities, you would think, to step up. We really didn't see it, although we did see more production from him than we have Mechie. But Justin Watson, it'll be interesting to see what he looks like, especially when CJ Stroud gets back on the field.
I mean, the only way Justin Watson, to me, doesn't end up making this team is if he gets Noah Brown, which is he gets hurt and he's not on the field and they just like one of the young guys better than him. But if he's on the field, I feel like he's making the team. And you mentioned the kind words that D'Amico Ryans had to say. He was the guy that impressed D'Amico the most in offseason workouts. And then he also called him one of the most consistent wide receivers in all of football. So let's go out there and be a veteran. And he's got a lot more success and snaps than a lot of these young guys that are trying to beat him up and take his spot. So, I mean, he's going to hold him off pretty well, I think.
Jimmy Ward, the next one. Jimmy Ward is someone who D'Amico Ryans insists is going to be a part of this team. I thought it was interesting. PFF ranked the top 32 safeties, and Gardner Johnson was in the top 20. I forgot what he was. 3 spots lower was Jimmy Ward. PFF likes Jimmy Ward a lot. I know a lot of Texans fans who watch Jimmy Ward, and sometimes the lows are really low and that he's picking up his jock, and it's always appears that when he makes a bad play, it's a really bad play, and some of the really good plays go under the radar. But how does Jimmy Ward fit into what they're going to do? They've already paid for him. I think Jimmy Ward's an excellent football player. I think he's a great asset to have. I'm intrigued to see what it looks like, what the role is, how he's moving, because he was injured. Apparently he's doing a good job with rehab and everything like that. Jimmy Ward, what's that going to look like?
I'll be fascinated to see how they use him when they get to the training camp elements. And is he rotating in with CJ Gardner-Johnson? Is he clearly behind CJ Gardner-Johnson? Does he sneak down and play Petrie's position every now and then, like how they use him and having you're talking about safety depth. They're deeper at safety with Jimmy Ward than they have been the past few seasons, and certainly towards the back end of the past few seasons with some of the guys that they've been putting on the field. Like, having him as a depth player is a lot nicer than some of the depth players that they've had in recent years.
Elite. I mean, it's an elite depth guy. Like it really is it's an elite. Like as far as him, whether if he needs to back up Petrie, if he needs to start at safety in certain instances, if he needs to be a reserve safety. I mean, like it's elite. Like Jimmy Ward as a reserve safety, it's as good as it gets. He's got elite experience at nickel. He's done everything, and he knows what D'Amico wants. And do I think that, like, if you could go back, that the investment made sense when it was made? Probably not. But if it's already done, I think you do a job. And this is kind of an under the radar thing. I think the Jalen Reed thing it makes the safety position interesting because he's basically doing in practice what Jalen Petrie did. And it's not the same as Hill last year, where Jamal Hill was kind of mentioned as, oh, what can he do? I don't think that Jalen Reed is in no man's land. Like, it's not like he's some tweener. Like, Jamal Hill was kind of a tweener where you don't know if he's a linebacker. You don't know if he's a safety. You don't know if he's really good enough to cover to be like a full-time nickel guy. You know he's good enough to play special teams, but as far as finding like a consistent spot on defense, you didn't know. Jalen Reed was just looked at as a guy who basically was Jalen Petrie, and people didn't really look at him as like a true 3-down safety, but they already had investment in that position, and then they bring him in. The safety position as a whole it's a top 3 most intriguing position, and the depth is actually pretty impressive. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, the days of DeAndre Houston Carson starting for you are hopefully long behind them.
Jamal Hill is a
chat favorite, a chat legend
favorite for sure.
He's a chat legend.
He's a very big chat legend, to say the very least. But the Nick Chubb thing will be interesting. Cliff Hurd on the chat says the other day you were laughing because someone ranked Jimmy Ward in the top 10 flip-flopping. He wasn't in the top 10. And I just think it's interesting because everyone thinks he sucks, but he's right there with CJ Gardner-Johnson. That's really what I think is fascinating, is that PFF has him up here and everybody has him here.
Did you see Kamari Lassiter be annoyed with PFF on social media the other day?
Yeah, the PFF relationship is funny. I do think that the one thing that I think I've noticed with PFF is that they don't do a very good job with DBs. Remember when Tavier Thomas was like the number 1 ranked nickel corner? And it was like, what? Like, we watch this guy all the time. Tavier Thomas is like a number 1 nickel corner. Like, let's be serious. Kind of ended up getting exposed, but I think that's one of their weaknesses. It's just a resource. It's just kind of one of those things. But I always thought it was funny how Tunsil and Titus would always talk bad about PFF, but whenever their grade was solid, it would come across the timeline in retweet form.
Mm-hmm. I guess Lassiter was annoyed the other day. PFF put up a graphic. They didn't put Kalen Bullock on there. They put Jimmy Ward and CJ Gardner-Johnson and Petrie, but not Bullock. And he just said, "Where's Hawk at?"
Yeah, they had 3. I don't think PFF is very generous to Bullock.
Yeah, the nerds don't seem to like him.
Yeah.
The nerds don't seem to like him.
Yeah, they do not, even a little bit. PFF got Eric Murray paid by the Jags. Was Eric Murray a big PFF dude?
I don't know, because I wouldn't have believed what the number was, regardless of if it was real bad. I'd tell you he was better than that, and if it was real good, I'd tell you he's not as good as that.
Javi Heat says, what are the odds Ward stays healthy and Petrie? Well, Ward hasn't been able to stay healthy for a large portion of his career. Petrie, we've seen him in this role, and it's a very physical role. We've seen him once, and he only lasted 10 games. So I don't know what the odds are. That flukish stuff can happen. It's not a trend or anything like that.
Yeah,
but
the way
that role that he's being asked to do is very, very, it's very, very physically imposing, and He's not the biggest guy up there at that line of scrimmage.
The way Petrie talked about it was not a wear and tear issue, was the sort of like a freak situation issue, but who knows if the wear and tear contributed to it. And it's a physical position. I would say, thankfully, they have maybe some guys that can fill in for him, and he's not having to play 100% of the snaps at that spot throughout the course of the season.
If Harris is healthy, this is from Mike. If Harris is healthy and Henry progresses more, I could see Harris doing a little Petrie position.
They just put 3 linebackers out there and take Petrie off the field. Yeah, maybe.
Kind of like a platoon type of thing.
If you know it's a clear run situation and Harris is healthy to the point where you can trust him, yeah, I'd rather him be on the field than Jalen Petrie.
Yeah, if it's a clear run situation, but we have no idea how they're going to use that. I think they're going to mix it up pretty nicely. You do trust D'Amico when it comes to this type of stuff. He has a lot to work with for sure.
You got Aziz and Henry, who played most of last year at linebacker. You add in EJ Speed, who's probably best cast as a rotational player, not as a starter. Hopefully you get a healthy Christian Harris. And then you got the bunch of guys behind those guys, Neiman and Jake Hansen and Woodard and everybody else that's a linebacker. So you got some options. You can mix and match different skill sets. So be intriguing to see who's healthy and who can be used in what way.
Yeah, there's really no concern there's no concern on the defensive side. There's more intrigue, but there's plenty of concern on the offense, which is it's kind of been the D'Amico Ryans experience. I mean, it's not proportional. I
don't have any starter concerns on defense, whereas I have multiple starter concerns on offense. It's my top defensive concerns, probably backup outside corner. Like that'd probably be the thing I'd worry about on the defense.
Which they said they might get into, and immediately people were saying Jair Alexander, he's not coming in and backing up Bullock. So
no. They worked out Damon Arnett, the Raiders. What? Yeah.
Man, they're really being loose then. That's the loosest they've been.
They worked. He just finished playing for the Roughnecks. That
would be the biggest dice they've ever rolled character-wise. And I like the young man. I'm not sitting here saying dismiss him. I'm just saying this ain't your mom and dad's Texans.
For people who don't remember who Damon Arnett is, 2020 first-round pick by the Raiders. He got into some trouble after the season. He brandished a gun and made death threats on social media.
Yeah, some troll, and there's a lot of them on social media that probably, I mean, and they're usually like anonymous accounts that kind of just like say stupid shit. But he took it to a new level with flashing guns, saying, "I'll kill you, I'll kill you." I remember it.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, and then in 2020,
he had an issue in Vegas.
In 2024, well, 2022, he had an issue in Vegas. Charges of assault with a deadly weapon.
And then he had an issue with a valet.
And then, yes. And then in 2024, he was charged with possession of meth and unlawful carrying of a firearm.
Yes.
But he's apparently on the straight and narrow and playing in the UFL.
I have no problem with the young man getting another chance, man. Like he just kind of lost his cool. I'm just saying this is very, very different.
What do you build a culture for if you don't have them to?
Yeah, that's what I've always said. Like if you have a bunch of leaders, you got to give them people to lead.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the point of building a culture if you only add people that fit the culture? You need to find people that you can fine tune to the culture.
Yeah. So. Yeah, Damon Arnett. That video was crazy though. That guy's a jackass though. He snitched on him, talking crap, and then snitched on him. But yeah.
It's never good when your legal issues portion of your Wikipedia is 5 paragraphs and they're all different incidents.
Yeah, wasn't great for him. Wasn't great for Damon Arnett. Give him a chance, man. Give him a chance.
We'll see. We'll see if he gets an opportunity. D'Amico Ryans did say they're going to add a corner last week.
Yep, he did. Appreciate y'all for coming through. We got a practice to cover tomorrow. We got a practice to cover the next day. Like, subscribe, always right along. And always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yepers.